Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Coffee Break podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Coffey, and this is going to be a sports-centric podcast. If you couldn't tell by the jerseys and the hats, I'm a Mets fan. I'm an Islanders fan. I'm also a New York Giants fan. New York sports, that's mainly what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about New York sports. I'll give a little overview as to what's going on outside of New York sports, and we're going to get into a little sports betting segment as well in this podcast. So welcome to the first episode, and we'll jump right in. We'll start off with my favorite baseball team. We'll start with the New York Mets. The New York Mets they've had a very interesting offseason to start. Let's give it a little rundown as to what has happened over the past month and a half, 2 months, okay? So the first big move that happened was on November 24th of 2025. Brandon Nimmo was traded to the Texas Rangers in exchange for infielder Marcus Semien. I see it as more of as a salary dump. Yes, Semien is a little bit older than Nimmo. I believe Semien is around 35 years old. Nimmo is about 32. Nimmo was owed about $30 million more than Semien is. So, hence why they wanted to get rid of the contract. It was sort of a win-lose in terms of offense and defense. Offensively, Brandon Nimmo has the upper hand over Semien. Defensively, Semien has that Gold Glove experience at second base. So, I don't know how I really feel about it. Obviously, Brandon Nimmo, he was the longest tenured Met at the time of this trade. So, it's, as you know, from a fan's perspective, it really hurts. It really does. But at the end of the day, you have to. It was a move that needed to be made. Nimmo is an injury-riddled player, and Semien is going to give you that lockdown defense at second base. Now, you could argue, hey, here and there we have Brett. We could play Brett Beatty there. We can play Jeff McNeil there. We can play Luis Angel Acuna there, right? We're going to get to those three names later. Moving on, a couple of weeks later on December 9th, closer Edwin Diaz, signs a 3-year, $69 million contract with the LA Dodgers. The Mets' final offer to him was 3 years, $66 million, so just one less $1 million AAV for that contract. I was very upset at this because going into the offseason, I said that the main two things that the Mets need to do is to sign Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso, right? Edwin Diaz going to the Dodgers hurts. And it really was, it ruffled some feathers, not just for Mets fans, but for fans around the league. Because Dodgers are back-to-back World Series champions, right? They're back-to-back defending World Series champions. And you're going to add the best closer in baseball, taking him away from the Mets. That hurts. It really does. It's unfortunate for the Mets. He was lights out ever since he signed his new contract, ever since he re-signed with the Mets. Ever since they extended him to be the highest paid closer ever in baseball. When they signed that 5 years, like whatever it was, $105 million, I think it was. But, and then the next day, Pete Alonso signs a 5-year, $155 million contract. What did the Mets offer him? They didn't. That is what is so frustrating, is that they didn't give him an offer. Jeez, man. You thought I was mad about the Diaz signing to the Dodgers? I was even more mad about this, okay? To the Baltimore Orioles of all teams, the Orioles? Everybody thought he was going to the Red Sox. The Orioles? To be honest, I thought he was going to go to I thought he was going to go to Miami. I thought he was going to go back to Florida, where he grew up. I never thought he would go to Baltimore. That's the most random spot. I think everybody can agree with me that was the most random spot he could have picked, right? But they were spending money. Good for the Orioles. Good for them. At the time, wow, shame on you, David Stearns. I couldn't believe you guys. I couldn't believe you let him go. I really couldn't. Unbelievable. Really unbelievable. About a week and a half later, Jeff McNeil was traded to the A's for pitcher Yordan Rodriguez. McNeil, another guy who, he's a utility man. He won the batting title a couple of years ago, but he was a guy that needed. I was okay with this. He was a guy that needed to be traded. Another iffy contract that he had. It's fine. I was totally okay with this. This was totally a contract dump. And now McNeil, who, like I mentioned earlier, was, up in the air for that second base spot. But obviously he can play the outfield. He can play anywhere. He's a utility guy, right? He's a utility guy that puts the ball in play. He's not a power hitter. He puts the ball in play and really puts together quality at bats, or tries to put together quality at bats. Jeez. At the end of the day, you got rid of four pieces that have been vital pieces of this Mets team for the past 5 years now, right? Brandon Nimmo's the longest tenured Met. He's been around since 2016. Edwin Diaz, he was the best closer in baseball. Pete Alonso, the best power hitting Mets hitter of all time, literally just broke Darryl Strawberry's home run record for the most home runs in Mets franchise history. McNeil, who won a batting title recently. And all Mets fans are in panic mode. They don't know what to do. They don't know if this team is able to even compete within their own division. Nonetheless, in the National League, where in 2023, Steve Cohen says, oh, we're going to rebuild in 2024 to get ready for 2025. If you told me at that time that the script would be flipped for both of those seasons, I'd call you crazy. Mind you, the Mets were, I think it was 21 games over 500 at one point this past year, and just completely imploded. I couldn't believe it. And then last year they made it all the way. The year before they made it all the way to the NLCS. They lost to the Dodgers in 6. I give them credit. Staying on par with the Dodgers for 6 games, that's great. I'll take it. Especially in a year where you said that you were going to rebuild. Yeah, that's great. But also, a faulty piece this past season was Kodai Senga. Kodai Senga was not up to what his contract was. He obviously got sent down to AAA at one point, which was shocking, but needed to be done. So it's been a tough past year for this team and for the fans. Especially with your owner basically saying that you're gonna at least make the playoffs, right? But obviously that didn't happen, and also when your owner first buys the team, that if you don't win a World Series within the next 3 to 5 year span, he would see it as a disappointment. So I think David Stearns and Steve Cohen, they made all these moves, and none of the fans saw their vision, okay? and this is where we get into the positive stuff, okay? On January 16th, so a week ago, Bo Bichette signs a 3-year, $126 million contract with the Mets. This includes opt-outs after the first and the second year, so he can be a free agent after each season of being a Met, right? I didn't expect this. I don't think any Mets fan really expected this. I think every MLB fan really thought that he was going to re-sign with the Blue Jays. I thought he was going to re-sign with the Blue Jays, especially after the World Series he just had. Yeah, he was hurt for the majority of the postseason, but I think this is an incredible addition for the Mets. They take it away. They take Bo Bichette away from the Philadelphia Phillies when he requested that he wanted a 7-year, $200 million contract that the Phillies pretty much agreed on, and then the Mets swoop in and give him $42 million AAV compared to whatever 7 years, $200 million is going to be. Whatever that is, about a little under $30 million a year. So you're giving him $42 million a year. That's ballsy, okay? For a player who's, you don't know if he's going to be 100% healthy, but he's a good bat. He's a really, really good bat. What I'm really worried about is his health, and they're going to stick him at third base. He's never played a game at third base in his MLB career. So, and, third base is, he's whatever he is, a middle infielder, shortstop, second baseman. Third base is a way, way different position than second and shortstop. Early when I was playing baseball, when I was, 12, 13 years old, I was playing third base because I liked it. I liked the pressure of playing at the hot corner. And then it came to the point where I was so bad defensively where I was like, you know what, I need to play I need to play a softer position at second base, right? You don't know how he's going to do over there. You needed something that was a step up from Mark Vientos. And it's a gamble. It really is. It's a gamble, okay? I totally forgot to mention this. And this is the point where I say I apologize that I forgot Jorge Polanco and it wasn't in my notes. December 16th. So this was a little bit before McNeil. This is a little bit before McNeil, a little bit after Alonso. A little bit before McNeil, a little bit after Alonso. On December 16th, Jorge Polanco signed a 2-year, $40 million contract with the Mets. I like the signing. However, they said that they're going to stick him at first base. He's only played one game in his MLB career at first base. He's a little bit on the older side. But a 2-year contract, especially after, the postseason he just had with the Mariners, I'm a big fan of it. And you needed a bat like his, okay? So this is the start, supposedly, from David Stearns, is how this lineup is going to shape. Then Bo Bichette signs the 3-year, $126 million contract with opt-outs after every year. Then January 20th, so Tuesday, this past Tuesday, the Mets trade Luis Angel Acuna and Truman Pauly to the White Sox in exchange for Luis Robert Jr. Now, Luis Robert was talked about a lot this past trade deadline. He's also a little bit of an injury-riddled player, but the Mets got their center fielder. They needed that, okay? Personally, I wasn't going to be very comfortable putting Carson Bench in center field, like, to start the season. I think Carson Bench is going to end up shaping. Once Robert is not on the Mets anymore, Carson Bench is going to be your full-time center fielder. That's just a given, okay? But Luis Robert, he was an all-star in 2023. His second-half stats from last year weren't bad. He had a .298 batting average with an .808 OPS and a 126 WRC plus with a 15.2% strikeout rate, which was, a lot better than his first-half stats. But you got a guy who's going to play defense he's going to play really good defense for you out in center field. He's also going to steal bases for you. And now that we have that, I think he is like the Mets are one of the biggest teams who have stolen base threats, right? You obviously have Francisco Lindor. Juan Soto had a career high in stolen bases this past year, and now you have Luis Robert. Okay, so those three guys at the top of your lineup, they're threats on the base paths, and they're going to get in the pitchers' heads. And now that Soto and Lindor both have that security blanket, right? Is that what the word is? Sure. I want to use this security blanket. Protection. There you go. So now that they have the protection, it's going to be, the 1 through 4 hitters in Robert, Lindor, Soto, Bichette, and then even Polanco, right? Those 5 guys at the top of the lineup are going to be really scary for these pitchers against the Mets. Okay, it's going to be now I'm really excited, right? And now this all happens, and now you have to address the starting pitching. Okay, that's the next step. You have to address the starting pitching. It's not an option. You have to address the starting pitching. You can't roll out there with McLean, who he's a dog, okay? I'm not discrediting McLean at all, right? But you can't have McLean. You can't be rolling out there with Clay Holmes as your number 2 starter. That's just not going to happen. You can't do that. Brandon Sproat, we saw him a little bit this past year. He did all right. I don't think he's MLB ready, but he did all right. And you have Jonah Tong. Jonah Tong did all right as well. Did a little bit better than Sproat, in my opinion. But he showed flashes of what he can be. I think he's fantastic, right? And what pitcher am I? Oh, Kodai Senga. He's not reliable at all either. He's supposed to be your ace. He's not reliable. It can't happen, okay? So then, last night, I was hanging out with a couple of my buddies. Last night, January 21st, the Mets trade Brandon Sproat and Jet Williams, two top 100 prospects in the Mets system. Or, I'm sorry, in MLB. So, yeah, I think they were both top 90 prospects, right? In exchange for Brewers starter Freddie Peralta. Bang! There's your ace. It's exactly what you needed. It is exactly what you needed. And I'm pumped. Now I'm pumped. Okay? Mets fans are back. Mets fans are excited. You just got one of the best pitchers, dare I say, in baseball? It's one of the best pitchers in baseball. I got this from the Just Baseball podcast. Just one of 7 pitchers with 700 innings pitched and 125 ERA plus since 2021. Peralta has the highest strikeout rate among all of them at around 30%. 30%. So he's striking out 3 batters. He's striking out 3 out of every 10 batters. Wow. You really can't ask for much more, okay? This is great for the Mets. This is a fantastic move for the Mets. I wouldn't be surprised if they're not done yet. You never know. You never know what good old Steve Cohen's got up his sleeve, okay? You never know. And now the Mets still have 6 top 100 prospects, okay? They still have 6 top 100 prospects. Majority of them, I'd say half of them are probably going to be on the roster next year. McLean, Tong, Bench. You got rid of Brandon Sproat, who, he's going to be a good pitcher one day. I don't think he's going to be an ace, but he's going to be a good pitcher. Jet Williams, on the other hand, I think is the one piece that was a little iffy to give up. I'm okay with it. He's not, he hasn't been up to the MLB yet, but Jet Williams has been talked about numerous times from Mets fans as, when do you test out Jet Williams in the major leagues? I think the only way that it would have happened if Lindor got hurt. It's the only way I think that Jet Williams would have been able to fit on the roster. And that was still with, Luis Angel Acuna on the roster, which, he was reliable defensively. But it was going to be tough to take Lindor's spot when Lindor really hasn't had many injuries since he's been on the Mets. I don't think he's really had much. I don't think he's, if any, injuries, other than slamming his finger in a hotel room door in L.A. But that was it. Or fouling a ball off his toe. Was that last season or the season before? Foul ball off his toe. But other than that, he was going to play every day. Lindor and Alonso were the two guys that were going to play every single day, no matter what. You were not giving them days off. They want to play. And they're getting paid for it. So they're getting paid big bucks for it. So it's been, just all up after getting rid of, the four longest, losing four of the longest tenured guys on this roster, right? All right, that's enough talking about the Mets. Let's move on to the Yankees with all of their offseason deals that they've done. They traded for pitcher Ryan Weathers from the Marlins. He's a former first-round pick from the Padres, and doesn't have too much major league experience. And then yesterday they re-signed Cody Bellinger for 5 years, $160 million. Cool. Anything else, Cashman? Nothing? Okay, let's move on. All right, let's move on to hockey. The New York Rangers, brutal. Say the very least, brutal. They've now lost 7 of their last 8, and 10 of their last 12. The Rangers they're in a spiral. At the beginning of the season, they couldn't figure out how to score goals, and it took them a while to even win a game on their home ice in Madison Square Garden. And last week, General Manager Chris Drury sent out a letter to fans saying they're going to retool this team. I haven't seen somebody send a letter out like that since the Lightning did after getting swept by Columbus back in 2019. But it was I was shocked when I saw the letter. The Rangers are a team that I feel like they're a team that really doesn't give up on their push, if that makes sense, right? I think the Rangers are always, no matter where they are in the standings, are always pushing. I feel like every hockey team does that. No matter what, the players are still going to compete. But sometimes as a team, and especially from the fans, you get a message of, hey, we're still in this. Especially with how loaded the Eastern Conference is. The point differential between where the Rangers are and where let's say the Sabres, it's like an 8-point difference. It's not drastic, but it's kind of, I feel like Drury realized we're already halfway through the season. Are we really going to make up 8 points, especially with the Sabres somehow being on a tear, right? But yeah, Chris Drury basically said they have to be realistic. Igor Shesterkin just got hurt. Adam Fox has been hurt. The two your two pretty much best players on the team are now out, right? And now they sit at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. It's just, it's not looking too great. And now they're talking about how the Rangers have talked with Artemi Panarin. He has a no trade clause, but I don't really know how it works, but he has a no trade clause but if he agrees to it, he can get traded, right? But the Rangers can't just ship him off somewhere. They have to. They're going to have discussions with Artemi Panarin. He's on his last year of his 7 or 8. I think it's 7-year, $11 million a year contract. So they're probably going to send him somewhere, and it's going to be to it's going to be to obviously a playoff contender, because he's not going to want to go to a team that's not competing for a playoff spot. I don't know why they would do that, but yeah, Artemi Panarin might be shipped off somewhere. Who knows? Might see him in one of these jerseys. You never know. But yeah, I highly doubt he gets traded to the Islanders. I think he ends up getting traded to the West Coast. I don't think he's going to want to get traded in division, unless maybe to the Carolina Hurricanes, who are just continue to take over the Metropolitan year after year. So yeah, that's it for Rangers talk. Let's move on to my Islanders. They just wrapped up a 3-1 road trip after losing to the Seattle Kraken last night. The Lane Lambert coached Seattle Kraken, which pains me to say because I hate Lane Lambert. But Anthony Duclair is on fire. He's got 8 goals in his last 8 games. Every time my roommate's been watching at my house, I wouldn't be watching with him for a good amount of time, and I would just hear Duke. In the living room, and I'm just like, there's no way this guy Anthony Duclair is just tearing it up right now. I did go to the Islanders game where they played the Devils and won 9-0, and he had a hat trick, a natural hat trick. So it's been, Anthony Duclair, especially what happened last year, where he had to take a little break for mental health. It's just, it's good for hockey, and it's good. I feel like many NHL fans are happy for Anthony Duclair based on what happened last year, and to see him really excel in his position and his role on this Islanders team. So, and the Islanders are getting what they paid for in Anthony Duclair after signing him 2 off seasons ago. The presence of Bo Horvat is really missed right now. You're really missing that guy who is, standing in front of the net waiting for those one-timers that are just going top shelf, right? He led this team in goals before he got hurt. I'm not sure if he still leads, but I think he might. He might still lead, but yeah, he leads the team, and he was selected to be on the Canadian roster for the Olympics, which is amazing. It's great to have Islanders representation on the Islanders repping an Islanders player. Jeez, speak, Steve. An Islanders player representing his national team, which is great for Bo Horvat, and I'm very happy for him. It's just unfortunate. He came back for a couple of games and then he got hurt again, and then didn't join the Islanders for the rest of their road trip. Hopefully he's back on Saturday against Buffalo. That would be really nice. And the Islanders now sit third in the Metropolitan Division. I don't know if it's like tied for second or whatever, but at this point, they're tied with the Pittsburgh Penguins for second and third place with 59 points. The Penguins, I just think, have one less game played, so that's why they're above the Islanders at this point. And then the Hurricanes are sitting at the top of the Metro at the moment. All right, so now we're in the full swing of playoff football, which is one of my favorite times of the year, right? Times of the year, it's only January, but playoff football, March Madness, MLB playoffs. Those are like my 2 favorite. Oh, and NHL playoffs, don't get it twisted. But those are like my favorite times of the year in terms of sports. Hopefully the Olympics is too this year. I love watching some. It's the first time in 12 or so years that NHL players are allowed to play in the Olympics, and I think it's amazing for the Olympics, and it's amazing for hockey. So, and who knows? Maybe we'll see another team other than Canada or U.S. win this year. You never know. It's good for hockey, and it's good for a national stage. It's good for an international stage, right? So. But anyways, we're in the full swing of playoff football. The Giants, within the past month, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I've signed John Harbaugh to fill in that head coach position. They signed him to about a 5-year contract, and it's great. I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing for the Giants. That's exactly what you need. I thought it was going to be him or Stefanski. I thought it was going to be Stefanski first because Stefanski met with the Giants prior to Harbaugh, But I think this is great. Stefanski ended up going to Atlanta, which is a good fit for him as well. But Harbaugh, he's got that Super Bowl win with the Ravens. He's got a lot of playoff experience, and I think he is the right guy to develop Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart is also in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year with McMillan and Buka, and two other guys I can't remember off the top of my head, but Jackson Dart, he was a solid quarterback for the Giants this year. I honestly think that he should win Rookie of the Year. Just he didn't have the, he had to fight through adversity for the majority of the year. If this Giants team had, if their defense played up to its expectations, I think this is a 500 team, no doubt, right? I think this is a 500 team. Should have beaten the Saints, should have beaten the Broncos, should have beaten the Cowboys in week 2. And those are the three games I can think of off the top of my head, but that's what, 7, and now you're 7-11 or 7-10. I'm not complaining about, I'm not complaining about the 5th overall pick. I am complaining about how you just beat the Raiders and the Cowboys the last 2 weeks of the season when it didn't matter anymore. I'm upset about that. You know how much in return we would have gotten for the first overall pick? Fernando Mendoza balled out the other night. He balled out for Indiana. And now the Raiders are probably going to take him with the first overall pick. We would have gotten at least 3 first-round picks out of him. So I'm a little upset about that. That the Giants just purposely, I'm mad about the Raiders purposely tanking. Did you see Max Crosby? Did anybody see that? Max Crosby was listed, I think he was placed on IR for like the rest of the season, and then posted on his Instagram story on the Sunday that the Raiders played the Giants, and he was playing basketball at his house. Looked completely fine. So that I'm upset about too. But I'm not upset about Jackson Dart balling out. He lost his best friend in Scattaboo earlier in the season to injury. You lost Malik Neighbors in week 4, week 3, week 4, whenever it was. You lost one of the, that's a top 5 receiver in the NFL. And he's gonna ball out this year. He's gonna be in the running for Offensive Player of the Year. I think the Giants are going to have a really, really good season this upcoming season, starting in September. And I can't believe we have to wait, 6 months for that to happen, 6-7 months for that to happen. Anyway, and the Jets ended up with a 2nd overall pick. Are they going to take a quarterback? You don't know. You don't really know. Mendoza is really the only quarterback in this class that stands out to many. So we'll see what happens. But that's going to wrap it up for the New York sports segment. I know I rambled on for a little while. It took forever, but yeah, I'll take you guys around the leagues of what's been most important throughout MLB offseason, NHL season, and NFL playoffs, of course. So stay tuned. All right. Let's take a trip around the leagues. And the 2 leagues we're going to be talking about today are the MLB and the NFL. Maybe actually we'll talk about the NHL a little bit too. NBA, sorry folks, I don't really care about the NBA too much. So we're just going to stay on track with the 3. Maybe when the NBA playoffs come around, maybe I'll start talking about them, but or even down the stretch. Maybe after the trade deadline. You never know. The trade deadline for the NBA is February 5th, and there's your fact about the NBA for today. So to start, we're going to talk about the MLB. We're just going to talk about a couple of major signings that have happened. Ranger Suarez agreed to a 5-year deal $130 million with the Boston Red Sox. A good deal for the Red Sox. They really anchored that rotation that, didn't need too much help, but, you got a big piece in that. So the Red Sox, they're definitely going to be in the mix this upcoming season. One thing they did lose on is they lost Alex Bregman to the Chicago Cubs on a 5-year, $175 million contract. He's getting, that's like $33 million a year, I think is what it is. So almost I think it's $35 million a year, which is insane for a guy like Alex Bregman. But he's, Alex Bregman is one of those players that has been extremely consistent and has played well for the past 10 or so years of his career now. So you know what you're getting out of Alex Bregman. I know Boston fans are pissed. If I was a Boston fan, I'd be really mad too. But yeah, 5 years, $175 million for Alex Bregman. Dylan Cease, 7 years, $210 million with the Toronto Blue Jays. A good piece for the Blue Jays. And Kyle Tucker, this is the nail in the coffin for every MLB organization except for the Los Angeles Dodgers. They signed Kyle Tucker to a 4-year, $240 million a year. That's $60 million a year. The MLB world was speechless. And now, we're probably going to have a lockout. Thanks, LA. A lockout is likely after this signing, after this upcoming season. The likelihood of a lockout is now through the roof. Thanks to you, LA. Great job. No, but seriously, on a serious note, where do the Dodgers get all this money? I don't get it. It's crazy, dude. The Dodgers just everywhere you could find money, it's just there. I'm going to take a timeout real quick. It got really hot all of a sudden, and but also I really wanted to show off my shirt. I wanted to show off the shirt that I got for Christmas. Thanks, Mom. But yeah, Matthew Schaefer has been unbelievable for the Islanders this year as an 18-year-old defenseman, and he's the fastest player out there, which is unbelievable to see. And it's really I'm happy to see the Islanders getting a little younger because a couple seasons ago they had the oldest roster in the NHL. They averaged, I think their average age was 28 years old, and that's really old for an NHL roster. So I'm very happy that Schaefer is performing up to expectations, performing up to, first overall pick caliber level. And he's only 18 years old, and I don't know what the Islanders are waiting for on it. Why haven't we signed him to an extension? Why? But it's great to see, and I just wanted to show off my shirt as well. Other than being brutally hot in this podcast studio. But anyway, we are going to move on to the NFL playoffs. We're going to talk about the NFL playoffs for a little bit. We'll just go through all the games from this past week in the divisional round. We'll talk about we'll start off with the Broncos and the Bills. The Broncos took down the Bills in overtime, 33-30. Josh Allen does not get it done, unfortunately. And man, I have over the past few years, I have grown to love Josh Allen. Okay, I'm a Giants fan. There's outside of the Giants, I think Josh Allen is probably my favorite player. Okay, Josh Allen he's a baller. Right? Josh Allen's a baller, and, the Bills just can't give him anything outside, outside of the running back position offensively, right? And maybe the tight end position with, you have Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. But the receivers-wise, it was really, really tough to watch, right? You can't have, Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman hasn't really played up to his expectations. They picked up Brandon Cooks, which is a really good pickup for them, and I was happy to see him ball out in the wild card round too. But it was just too much. The Broncos was just too much for the Bills to handle. They kicked a field goal. Woohoo! We go into the championship round. The Broncos lost Bo Nix right after that game. That's unfortunate. That's tough, right? I was seeing he got hurt. He broke a bone in his foot or his ankle, whatever it was, on the kneel down before the field goal in overtime. That is probably the worst thing that could have happened. That's like the most drastic high dipping to a low. Okay. And now the Patriots are going to the Super Bowl, right? We'll touch on the Patriots in a second, but the Seahawks took care of business in Seattle, taking down the 49ers 41-6. I'm going to be honest. I picked the 49ers to win this game. I just didn't think that Sam Darnold had proven that he was a playoff quarterback. We saw how he did last year when he was with Minnesota after an incredible regular season, right? I thought it was just going to be a repeat. Not the case. Okay, sorry, Sam Darnold. But the 49ers were injured to hell and back. I knew that they were – I picked them to win against the Eagles the week prior. But I also, obviously I picked them to beat the Seahawks, but I knew the Eagles were a lot weaker than the Seahawks. Sorry, not sorry, okay? Eagles. I hate the Eagles, so. But, yeah, the 49ers, they took down the Eagles in the wild card round. I thought they were going to not with ease, but especially after losing Kittle and all the other injuries that you had, I thought Fred Warner was going to be back. I don't think he would have really made a difference in this one. But 41 points for the Seahawks, 3 touchdowns from Kenneth Walker. So the Seahawks, I think the Seahawks are going to go to the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be Seahawks Patriots as a rematch from a couple of 10 years ago or so of between Russell Wilson and Tom Brady. So it's going to be between Sam Darnold and Drake May. But let's go to Sunday. The Patriots took down the Texans 28-16. I hate the Patriots. I do. I like Drake May. Don't get me wrong. I like Drake May a lot. I think he's fantastic. I just hate the Patriots and I hate their fans. Like, we were at the frat house the other day and we were all watching the game together, and it's just all the mass guys just riding out with the Patriots. But yeah, they took care of business. They beat the Texans. CJ Stroud, man, he has not been good since his rookie season, which is unfortunate because I thought CJ Stroud was going to be I thought he was going to break that Ohio State quarterback curse, right? Obviously, Justin Fields didn't do that. I thought CJ Stroud was going to be the one to break that curse, and it just seems as if CJ Stroud is just never going to get over that hump, right? He had an okay season. He got carried by his defense. That defense is, the Texans, and that's why I thought the Texans were going to win, is because of that defense. I thought Drake May was going to be, I thought they were going to really limit Drake May and shut down all of those MVP talks and all those fraud talks and all those, you can't beat teams over 500 talks. But it was just, I don't know, man. I thought the Texans were going to take it, but the Patriots, they took care of business in Foxborough. So we go to the next game, Rams-Bears. Another overtime game. This has been one of the best playoffs I've ever seen, first of all. 4 out of the 6 games in the wild card round were one-score games. Those were incredible games. And then, obviously, the Texans destroyed the Steelers, and the Patriots didn't destroy the Chargers, but the defense was just too much for Justin Herbert and that offensive line to handle. So, but we go to the Rams-Bears overtime game. Caleb Williams doing his magic again on their last breath, throws it to Cole Kmet for the game-tying touchdown late in the fourth quarter to force this game to go to overtime. And then, but that wasn't enough. Too little, too late. The Rams took care of business, and they take down the Bears in overtime. And they will play the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game in Seattle, one of the hardest stadiums to play in as a visitor, and especially in the playoffs, right? So now we have on Sunday we have the Rams and the Seahawks going up against the Patriots and the Broncos. Now, I think the Seahawks are going to win. I think the Seahawks defense is a little too much for the Rams. I think, and who knows? Maybe Matt Stafford does his thing. He has the weapons. Matt Stafford, Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. Those four are going to be the reason. If they win this game, they're going to be the reason they win this game. Okay. But I think the Seahawks defense is too much. And I think Sam Darnold, based on how he played this past week, I think he's going to play incredible. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to have like 2 touchdowns against this Rams defense. I don't think it's going to be very close. I say my prediction will be I'll say 35-20 Seattle. And then for the other game, Broncos-Patriots, who all Patriots fans are saying is going to be a cakewalk. I saw a lot of comparison to Nick Foles when the Eagles won the Super Bowl against the Patriots. And I'm really hoping that repeats, because I don't want the Patriots to go to the Super Bowl. But also at the same time, I don't want the Broncos to go to the Super Bowl, because it's going to be a boring Super Bowl with Jarrett Stidham being a quarterback. I do think that the Patriots are just – I don't think it's going to be close. I think Jarrett Stidham is going to have 115 yards passing with maybe a lucky touchdown in there. But I don't think it's going to be close. I think the Patriots defense is going to take care of business, and I think the Broncos win this one. I'm sorry. No, I think the Patriots win this one. Maybe the Broncos defense keeps the Patriots in check. You never know. But I think the Broncos win. I can't stop saying the Broncos winning. Sorry. Is that a sign? But no, I think the Patriots win this one. I think I'm going to say 24-7. I think the Broncos only get a touchdown. Yeah, 24-7. So, but yeah, that's going to be it for the Around the League segment. We're going to do a quick sports betting segment, and then we're going to wrap it up. So thank you guys for hanging in there. This is my first ever podcast. So I'm trying to get through it. I had a little trouble in the control room. Thank you, Keith, for the help. He helped me out with the audio a little bit or a lot of it. I had the wrong mic volume on, and that's why I was playing with the control desk a little bit. So, but yeah, we'll be right back, and we're going to do the sports betting segment real quick. Thanks, guys. We'll be right back. Welcome back for one more time in this first episode of the Coffee Break podcast. Again, I'm Stephen Coffey. Thank you guys for hanging around with me. We're here for the sports betting segment. This segment is going to be, I'm going to need more ideas for this segment, what to do for this segment. So I'm not too big into sports betting. However, I do think that sports betting is a big part, especially, as college students. I know we're sports betting. A lot of guys are sports betting on a daily basis. I know a majority of guys would be sports betting on, the games this Sunday for the NFL playoffs. So I have a couple of picks for the game. I looked up, I'm not 21 yet, so I can't gamble on any sports bet on any of those apps, but I did look up on TikTok. Scrolled through tens of videos to find the best picks for this Sunday's game, and I have 4 picks for you guys for this weekend. This is on Underdog Fantasy. Ramondre Stevenson over 48.5 yards. We've been seeing Ramondre get the ball a little bit more than Henderson, so I do think that he is the safe pick for this game. Next up, we have Matthew Stafford. This is also on Underdog. Over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I do think he gets 2 passing touchdowns. I think he's the MVP over Drake May. So, he had 47 touchdowns this season for the Rams. So I think he's going to score 2 touchdowns against, that division rival in the Seahawks. Only a couple of weeks ago, they put up, I think, as total between the two teams, I think they put up over 70 points. So I think it's going to be very easy for Stafford to get over 1.5 touchdowns. I think this one's a gimme. I think Jared Stidham over 0.5 picks, maybe even 1.5 picks. I think he's going to have multiple picks in this game. He's going to have multiple mistakes. Screw it. I'm going to say over 1.5 interceptions. I don't know what the odds are for that, but I think it's 100% going to happen because they're going to end up flinging the ball after being down, 20 points in the fourth quarter. They're just going to be throwing the ball around. I think Stidham ends up throwing 2 picks. And lastly, Kenneth Walker to score a touchdown. He had 3 on Sunday last week. On Saturday last week against the 49ers. He had 3. One of my buddies said, hey, Steven, what should I pick? Sam Darnold, Kenneth Walker, or Jackson Smith and Jigma to score a touchdown? And I said, Kenneth Walker. And he goes, nah. Listen to me next time, Miles. Okay? Listen to me next time. Listen this time, because he's going to score a touchdown on Sunday. All right? So, yeah, thanks to all of you guys for listening to the first episode of the Coffee Break podcast. I don't know when I'll record again, but hopefully it's soon after I get some positive feedback. Also, thank you to Matt Kelm, one of my former fraternity brothers, who also did a podcast like this last year. And he his podcast sort of gave me the idea to do a podcast like this. So thank you, Matt, and thank you to you guys for listening and watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace out.